And welcome to episode 10 of the End One with EJ podcast. I'm your host, Ernest EJ Christian, coming to you here from the Christian Estates here on a Tuesday afternoon as we continue to inch closer and closer to the NBA playoffs. This is, of course, the weekly basketball podcast on the Huddle Podcast Network, or as you see on the Huddle Incorporated on the official logo of the Huddle Podcast feed. Again, shout out to our good friend, and I guess we'll call him CEO of Huddle Incorporated, Big Jim James Neese, for again, creating this platform to get this kind of stuff out to the masses here. Today's show, as always, we do 5 topics, 5 takes, 5 observations, things that are on my mind that I have want to discuss here on a show. I think we go typically between 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's pretty much a hit it or quit it type of thing. We want to get too much in the weeds. Just kind of keep it short as possible. We know we got a lot of basketball content out there as it is, so just keep this simple and easy. So let's get to the first take here. First off, before we get started, follow me on Twitter at EJChristian7 and all that. And of course, you can see all my work. Check out first off my main show, the Earnestly Speaking podcast, as well. And if you do like pro wrestling, you can also check out the Take 3 Wrestling podcast. I have been out for about a month or so from the show due to health issues. Although I am inching closer to being back, I'll have an update on that in the next couple of days, hopefully, with that. But yes, that's what's going on now with that. But in the meantime, let's get to some of the takes of the show today. Take number 1. I have Joel Embiid as my current MVP frontrunner right now. Now, of course, it can change. A whole month ago, things can change. But it's at this point, it's pretty much a 3-man race between Embiid, Jokic right there, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. We had a crowded field early in the year. We were talking about these 3 guys, of course, and Jason Tatum was in the conversation. It was at one point we had Luka Doncic. That's gone by the wayside. At one point we had Donovan Mitchell. Conversation about that at one point, and that's gone by the wayside, obviously, too, as well. But right now, Joel Embiid is my MVP frontrunner, and for a lot of reasons, too. Now remember, last year, granted, I don't have a vote, but last year I did say Embiid should win MVP by a smidge over Embiid. Of course, Embiid should win over Jokic by a smidge. Of course, Jokic did win the MVP last year. Either guy been fine. But here's the impressive about Embiid. And I'm not saying Jokic doesn't deserve to be in the conversation, because he's obviously still in the conversation. But what's fascinating right now about all this is, consistently speaking, Joel Embiid has continued to be that guy. And now, as of this recording, I believe both teams right now have the same record right now currently going, and I'm checking right now. Philly right now 45-22. They've won 5 in a row. They're currently the 3rd seed in the East. We'll get to that a little bit in a second about the seedings and whatnot. Denver one game better, 46-22. So virtually identical. Denver lost 3 games in a row. Let's not forget too. Also, the last time these 2 teams met, Embiid dominated Jokic. I think he had 47-18 in that meeting. I don't know. I'm not. Obviously, it's a tight race, and it's very highly contested. Even some certain sports media personalities have gotten into it between Jokic and Embiid conversation. Most notably JJ Redick against Kendrick Perkins, and some of the issues there. We won't have to dive into that right now. But I've just been very impressed with Embiid the last month or so, especially too. And obviously, I feel bad saying this, because at the same time, it's like these races always get determined by who did the best the last, who was the most effective. The last thing we saw was the best thing we saw. And I get all that. But Embiid has been consistent. he's been consistent and he's healthy and he's been the be all end all for Philadelphia. This team goes nowhere without the Sixers. Nowhere without him on the Sixers. Excuse me, flip that around. And I'm not, look, this can change because to me it's those two guys and it's Giannis. But Giannis, I think the thing that's going to hurt Giannis in the end is that he's missed a little more time. Milwaukee has still actually played well even without him in stretches. So it really, while Giannis is in the race, I think it's really a two-man race between Embiid and Jokic, again, like last year. But Embiid, people are arguing about, well, it's funny, like, people talk about Embiid is getting screwed, and yet Jokic has got to conference finals, and Embiid's not. Yes, that's a good point. However, this is still a regular season award. We don't contemplate the playoffs. We don't forget about it. This is an 82 game sample. That's it. We're not using his history and whatnot. You judge these guys based on the 82 games played. Okay. And I think people seem to miss that mark. They use the past and they use the fact that, he's won 2 in a row already. He should get a third one, this and that. Jokic should be in the conversation. I agree. But Embiid to me, is probably a smidge right now. And it's only a smidge. But if you ask me right now who's MVP right now, I have Embiid right now. If Philadelphia gets to the 2 seed at least, which is very possible for record, which gets in a second because they're only a game behind Boston right now, and Boston is slipping right now, I would actually probably put Embiid as the clear front runner for MVP because they're not getting there right. Embiid playing as well as he has. So kudos to that for Joel Embiid in Philadelphia for doing a good job. And to boot, I'm not even a Sixers fan necessarily, at all, but he is one of my favorite players watching the entire league. So it's good to see this guy come through for his team, whatnot. All right, take number 2. The world champs, Golden State Warriors. Their home road splits are mind-boggling. It's amazing how a team who just won a title, that's won four titles in 8 years, they are a dynasty. They are currently in a dynasty until further notice. They're so great at home. So good at home. But they're so dreadful on the road. Look, it'd be one thing if this team was like a 500 team on the road. I get it. You get everybody's best shot every night because you're the champs and Steph Curry this and that, and they've had injuries. But this team is what, 7-20? Or 7 and let me see the record real quick. I have the numbers here. So at home, here's the numbers here. The Warriors at home, they're 29-7, okay? And they got a pretty much a plus 8 point differential. However, on the road, it's literally flipped. They're 7-26 on the road. And this is even more concerning. They are a minus 7.3 point differential. Which means not only are they bad on the road, they don't even play well on the road well. So I guess the big question is this though, because obviously this team's goals is to repeat, to win another title. So does these numbers reflect into the playoffs? Will these numbers playoffs? I don't know, because there's a lot of factors here, and this is one of the reasons why when we talk about the NBA, finals contenders, the reason why I saw the Warriors there is that they're the type of team that could turn it on and switch. Once again, Wiggins back, Andrew Wiggins back. Steph Curry's healthy now. They're starting to turn it on a little bit now. Last couple games, you can't count these guys out. The defense obviously has to be improved, but this is why I can't necessarily say no. And so be it. They win a road game here, steal a road game here in the first 2. So they'll start the first series on the road most likely. Say they win the game 1 and 2 on the road. Then when they win 2 games at home. This is why you can't count them out, because they're still the Warriors. They still have those players. Obviously, there's things there they be concerned about, but at the same time, I think this is a team you just can't count out in the end, because again they have that championship moxie to go with that. But it is mind-numbing. It is quite surprising. How bad they're on the road. It's not that again I can accept 500. But Stephen A. Smith said it best on the first 6 that he goes it's like a dereliction. Like their world record is so bad, it's like almost a dereliction of duty for a champion to be that bad. He's right. It's pretty bad to be that bad on the road, and not just the record, but also the point differentials too. Also, which is actually even more mind numbing. So, but something to watch in the last month of the season and begin to the playoffs. But again, I can't count them out just yet because they are the Warriors and have those weapons, and of course, and with a wide open West, anything's possible. All right, take number 3. Congrats in order to Russell Westbrook as he moves into 9th on the all-time assist list, surpassing one of my favorite players of all time, one of my top 3 favorite players of all time, Isaiah Thomas, on the assist list. And there's relevant to debate now about Russell Westbrook, his legacy, and what does he rank among all-time guards? Now, this is a kind of a trick question because when you say all-time guards, are you talking about both positions combined or Russell Westbrook as a point guard? So is Russell Westbrook, so for example, is Russell Westbrook a top 10 all-time guard? I would probably lean no. Now, if you talk about Russell Westbrook as an all-time top 10 point guard, now you have a discussion there. Because if you talk about all-time guards, first off, in the point guard list, number 1, I'm taking Magic, I'm taking Stockton, I'm taking Isaiah, I'm taking Curry, I'm taking Chris Paul over him right now off the bat, okay? That's his point guards, okay? And then some people say they'll take Steve Nash over him as well, too. Or even Jason Kidd. That's 7 point guards there alone. And then in shooting guard, you obviously take Michael Jordan over him. That's 8. You're taking Kobe Bryant over him. That's 9. Dwayne Wade, that's 10. Right there. So 10 guys right as gave me there in splitting the guard position up here as who I'm taking over Westbrook. Now, if we're talking all-time point guards, I might lean yes, because productivity speaking, look, we know how volatile Russell Westbrook is as a player, has been for a long time, and more so now in his later years so far. But we do know also that at the peak of his powers, when he was obviously younger, and look, he's still a really good player, but he's just chaotic. Like, you have like style of play he plays, obviously, but in terms of just productivity, he's one of the most productive players in the history of the game. He's definitely deserving of top 75 top 75 accolades. No one's questioning that. He's not a top 10 guard all time, no. But top 10 point guard, absolutely. Look, the 5 guys I mentioned, I'll take Magic, Curry, Isaiah, Stockton, Chris Paul, you name it. He's definitely on the bottom 10, probably closer to 8 through 10. It's not a bad place to be at. I will say this much though: if Russell Westbrook can somehow, some way, in his last half of his career, late part of his career, turn around, somehow be productive, but still be in a way where he's not as chaotic, and actually be one of the focal points winning a title, I think that goes a long way in changing the perception of Westbrook. In the same way Chris Paul is trying to do, even as a guy who doesn't have a ring himself. But in terms of being a top 10 point guard, yes, he's definitely in the top 10. I put him between 7, maybe 8 or 10. Like I said, I'm taking the 5 guys I mentioned. I'm still taking probably still taking Steve Nash, because Steve Nash, while he wasn't as productive in terms of overall play, he was actually his game still aged well. Whereas Westbrook in his later years, still a good player, but the game is not gel with it. It's more of an individual thing. It's supposed to being playing within a team concept. And again, I'm a huge Westbrook fan, huge, and I'm rooting for the guy. I want him to do well with the Clippers, of course, but we'll see how that plays out in these last weeks into the playoffs. Again, these playoffs are going to be so fascinating because not just the wide openness of it all, but you have all these narratives we're looking into. All these narratives, like what if Chris Paul was the title, Durant, Kyrie, Westbrook. All these legacy plays. So that's why these playoffs are going to be one to watch, because of the narratives alone. All right, take number 4. I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit controversial. Maybe people agree with you, maybe they don't. I don't care. We should do away with divisions in the NBA, honestly. Like, I forget, and I'm a Miami Heat fan, I forget we play in the Southeast Division. I think Eric Reed mentioned it on the telecast the other day, like, the Miami Heat, first place in the Southeast. Like, huh? Because when we look, here's the thing also, I think we should do a division in the NBA. When you go to the NBA app, and you go and look at the standings, you're looking at the standings from the conference point of view. You never see the divisions in there, ever. You always see the rankings based on seedings. So at that point, what's the point of having divisions if we don't even almost acknowledge the fact that they're there? Now, I'll give you this. If we're going to keep divisions, at the very least, keep it to 4 only. The way we had it, I don't know what year it was they did away with the 4 divisions. Remember back in the day, you had 2 in the East, 2 in the West. There was the Atlantic and the Central in the East, and you had the Pacific and the Midwest in the Western Conference. That was cool. I love that, because it just makes more sense. Like, there's three divisions, I think, I believe in the NBA, I per conference. But it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. It's the point. We never acknowledge it. We never see the standings. It's always based on the seedings. So when you tell me you need it. So I don't know. Let's do a division. I don't think we need it. I think it's a waste of. I don't know. It's just, we don't acknowledge it as forget as fans. We don't acknowledge it even as the NBA itself. So I don't know why we're still doing it. So my opinion, if the NBA ever had a chance to do away with the divisions, or at the very least bring back the two in the conference and that's it, two per conference, and we'll live and call it a day there. Seriously, the Southeast division leaders, Miami Heat, okay, but you're still a 7 seed. You're still playing the play-in. What the hell does that matter? Like seriously, assuming that plays out the way it is, which is a nice segue to our last take of the show this week as we get into the again last month of the season. So I'm gonna go. What I'm gonna do, and I do this on my podcast a lot with the NFL. Typically through the last few weeks of the year, my buddy, my good friend Kyle Nash, and I will freeze frame the current standings and see if this holds. We say, does these rankings hold? Does these 7 playoff teams right now, currently at the start today, is this going to hold? So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to run down the 6 teams. Let's go to the East first. Run down the 6 teams in the Eastern Conference right now that currently are avoiding the playoffs right now. Okay, currently. All right, so 1 through 6. The Bucks are 1. The Celtics at number 2, 2.5 games behind the Bucks. The Sixers at 3, at 3.5 games on the Bucks. The Cavaliers at 4. The Nets at 5. And the Knicks at 6. Does this hold? Now, we thought that the Nets, once they lost Kyrie and Kevin Durant, that maybe they wouldn't, they'll just fall apart. And maybe fall into the play-in because there's enough baked-in wins early in the year that they'll just get into the play-in, fall to the play-in at least and still find a way to get in the playoffs. I'll be honest with you. Okay, so I think 1 through 4 is going to hold, number 1. Bucks hold number 1. I think it's also. I think there's a possibility of 2 and 3 swap if Boston keeps playing the way they're playing. They've been struggling. Philadelphia's surging right now. Won 5 in a row. I think 2 and 3 can flop. I think 4 is locked in. 5 and 6. I think New York. They struggled a little bit. They won against the Lakers actually finally on Sunday night. I think it's more possible the Knicks will surpass the Nets. So the Knicks will go to 5. I think, in my opinion. Which now leads down to the 6th seed. Now. You'd say Miami would be the other option to get to the 6th seed, but right now they're currently 3 back of both the Nets and the Knicks. And for the Heat to catch to both those teams, or one of those teams, they have to win games. And unfortunately, the Heat themselves have been inconsistent now. So what do you do there? So I'm still going to say the Heat find a way to the 6th seed, not sound like a homer, and the Nets slip to 7. Okay, so 7 through 10, right now the Heat, Hawks, Raptors, Bulls. I think. So right now, looking right now, the play-in. I think the Hawks stay in the play-in. I think the Raptors stay in the play-in. I think the big question is whether or not the Bulls hold here, because you have the Wizards just half game behind. You have the Pacers just 1 game behind. The Magic, who's been pretty frisky most of the year, I don't think they get in. They're not consistent enough as it is, honestly. Obviously, the Charlotte's 14 to 2015. I honestly think Indiana finds a way into the play-in. I don't know how and why, but they will get into the play-in. I just think they will. That's my opinion. So that's how I looked at the Eastern Conference right now. All right, here's the West currently right now. So 1 through 6, you have the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Suns, the Warriors at 5 right now, and the Clippers at 6 right now. In the Western Conference. Now, worth noting that both the Warriors and Clippers are tied right now for that 5 spot in the Western Conference. Nuggets hold, in my opinion. They'll maintain that one seed, even though they lost 3 in a row. The Grizzlies and Kings, I think the Grizzlies will hold on, even without John Morant. They've been doing a phenomenal job without John Morant. Despite that, they won 3 in a row. The Kings have been a great story. I think they'll hold a 3 seed. They got a 3.5 game lead over the Suns, and I think without Kevin Durant, especially too. I would have said the Suns got to the 3 seed had Durant been healthy, but that's not the case. And they lost 2 in a row since then. The Warriors, I think they avoid the play-in. They'll stay in that 5 spot, I think. They'll Curry back, and Wiggins come home back soon. Here's what's interesting now, the 6th seed. The Clippers. They won 3 in a row. Now, they've been very consistent. But you watch this Clippers team, when they're good, when they're playing all cylinders, they are they're one of the best teams in the league. When Kawhi is healthy and whatnot, and Russ plays controlled, and Paul George is doing his thing. It's a good roster. It's a really deep roster. In fact, one of the best rosters in the league, in my opinion, in terms of depth. I think this holds. I think the 6 teams here in this order holds. Honestly, 7 through 10: Minnesota at 7, Dallas 8, Lakers 9, Pelicans at 10. I think this also holds, although I think the Lakers actually surpass Dallas here. I think the Lakers at the 8th seed. I think the Lakers will surpass Dallas. Dallas is inconsistent. Luka's hurt, so is Kyrie, all that. Pelicans at 10. Interesting, too, because the 11 and now they're tied with OKC right now, and Utah not far behind by half game. So I think T-Wolves hold the 7th spot. I think the Mavericks fall to 9. Lakers move up to 8. Mavericks will find a way to win some games late to stay in that play-in. Pelicans and Thunder, this is going to be tough because Pelicans have fallen apart since losing Zion. And OKC has been, such one of the most quietest stories in the league right now. I think OKC gets, I think the Thunder get the 10th spot. I think they do. And then Pelicans will miss out the playoffs, as well as Utah, Portland, Spurs, of course, and the Rockets there as your completes the Western Conference. So there you go. There's my prediction. Now, obviously, we'll go through this. We'll probably do this every week now going forward since the last 4 weeks of the year. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the start of the playoffs. Can't wait. But favorite time of the year, it's like Christmas for me. So anyway, that'll do it for this week's edition of the N1 podcast with EJ. Again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. Check out all the shows, especially on this network, including Fight for Fight by Mikey B, the Pitch by Matt, of course, and then you got, of course, the 5 Observations with Big Jim, and then, of course, the Big Show, Huddle podcast, which we will be back, I believe, in the next 2 weeks, as and the NFL offseason has already ramped up. Free agency starts tomorrow as we're recording. And got a lot of stuff to talk about there. We have a lot of off-season programming going on as well, too. So until then, we'll talk soon next week on the pod. And until then, later, God bless. See y'all.